The financial secretary says the government will strictly regulate expenditure and implement revenue-generating measures ahead of his budget speech. German voters go to the polls. And the U.S. reportedly threatens to cut Ukraine's access to Starlink internet services if a deal over minerals is not reached. Hello and welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. Financial Secretary Paul Chan will unveil the government's 2025-26 budget on Wednesday. He emphasized in his blog post that the budget will prioritize an enhanced fiscal consolidation strategy. Timothy Lee reports.
Sporting a turquoise blue cover, Financial Secretary Paul Chan said the color of the latest budget is meant to symbolize Hong Kong's developmental opportunities are as boundless as the ocean. Sticking with its aquatic theme, the finance chief noted that just as the lake breeds a limitless life, so are opportunities in Hong Kong with the firm support of the nation. Chan said the authorities will continue to enhance their fiscal consolidation strategy by strictly regulating government expenditure while maintaining services to benefit the livelihood of the community. Additionally, revenue-generating measures will be implemented under the user pays principle. Meanwhile, some lawmakers questioned how the city could increase its revenue under this principle. This after Hong Kong recorded a more than 50% increase in profits tax, salaries tax, and stamp duty this fiscal year, while expenditure on the medical sector, welfare, and education each exceeded $100 billion. Lawmaker Lam Chin Sing suggested school fees could be raised for the children of talent attracted to the city. While lawmaker Michael Tien noted fares for numerous facilities under the Leisure and Cultural Services Department have not been adjusted for more than a decade. Over the past years, the government's fiscal consolidation strategy largely consisted of freezing the headcount for civil servants. Responding to the financial secretary's move to enhance the strategy, some economists suggested the authorities should instead look into adjusting salary increase practices. He added the government has racked up $310 billion in payments to the worst-performing civil servants over the past 24 years. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Executive Council member Jeffrey Lam said the government should establish long-term plans to help reduce its spending amid the financial deficit. The comment came as the 2025-26 budget will be unveiled on Wednesday. Mimo Singhai reports.
Hong Kong is facing a financial deficit of nearly $100 billion. With the new budget due to be announced on Wednesday, all eyes are on what measures the government is going to take to reduce the deficit. Speaking on a TVB program, Executive Council member Jeffrey Lam said expenditure cutting requires detailed planning.
The government has suggested trying to cut spending by 1–2%. Not enough. I think they should have a longer plan, like 2–3 years. You know, what are we going to do in the next 3 years?
Lam, who is also a business representative in the city, said the government needs to increase its revenue, such as luring foreign investors to Hong Kong.
Some people are talking about, why don't we increase the rich man's tax? That's capital gain tax. And I'm fully against it, because a lot of the company I've foreseen coming to Hong Kong this year. Why are they coming here? Hong Kong is a place to make money, because we have a low and simple tax.
Lam added he is confident that Hong Kong will welcome different overseas businesses that will establish their regional headquarters in the SAR this year. Sources say the government will amend the $2 public transport concessionary fare scheme for senior citizens by limiting the arrangement to 8 trips each day. And for rides that cost more than $10, the concessionary fare will be calculated based on an 80% discount instead of paying a $2 flat fare. Lam says such a proposal is complicated and authorities should adjust the scheme by linking it to inflation. Mimo Singhai, TVB News.
Germans are voting in a national election on Sunday that is expected to see Friedrich Merz's Conservatives regain power and the far-right Alternative for Germany seal its best-ever result. Daniel Rao tells us more.
Sunday's election follows the collapse of German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's coalition of his centre-left Social Democrats, the Greens and the pro-market Free Democrats after they clashed over budget spending last November. The election campaign has been dominated by fierce exchanges over the perception illegal immigration is out of control, fueled by a series of attacks in which the suspected perpetrators were of migrant origin. Addressing a sluggish economy has also been high on the agenda. Friedrich Merz's Christian Democrats and Christian Social Union bloc has consistently led polls. Merz has vowed to revive Germany's economy and defend Europe's interests in the face of a confrontational US administration. The 12-year-old far-right Alternative for Germany Party, or AfD, is on track to come in second place for the first time in a national election. The AfD, however, is unlikely to govern for now. That's as all mainstream parties have ruled out working with it. Though analysts say a big result in this election could pave the way for an AfD win in 2029. Analysts say the most likely outcome of this election is a tie-up of Merz's conservative bloc of the CDU and CSU with the Social Democrats, or SPD, which is polling in third place in another uneasy grand coalition. Polls, however, suggest another three-way coalition may be necessary if several small parties make the 5% threshold to enter parliament. The need for parties to form coalitions could leave unpopular Chancellor Olaf Scholz in a caretaker role for months, delaying urgently needed policies to revive Europe's largest economy. It would also create a leadership vacuum in the heart of Europe, even as it deals with a host of challenges. Among them, US President Donald Trump's threats of a trade war and attempts to fast-track a ceasefire deal for Ukraine without European involvement. Exit polls will be announced and vote counting will begin immediately after voting ends on Sunday. The general picture of the outcome should be clear very quickly. A final official result is expected early on Monday. Danaral, TV News.
Preparations are underway for a face-to-face meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin as Washington abandons the previous Biden administration's policy of trying to isolate Moscow. U.S. and Russian representatives who earlier met in Saudi Arabia say much work is still needed. Trump's efforts to engage Putin are also creating a divide between the U.S. and Europe, which is seemingly being left out of negotiations to end the war. Nazvi Karim with more.
U.S. President Donald Trump addressed a willing crowd at the Conservative Political Action Conference in Washington, criticizing his predecessor Joe Biden and hailing his own efforts to clean up the mess. For Ukraine-Russia war, that means trying to get back the hundreds of billions of dollars Biden had given Kiev by tapping Ukraine's valuable rare earth minerals.
You know, Europe has given $100 billion. The United States has given $350 billion because we had a stupid, incompetent president and administration. Europe gave it in the form of a loan. They get their money back. We gave it in the form of nothing, so I want them to give us something for all of the money that we put up. So we're asking for rare earth and oil, anything we can get. But we feel so stupid. Here's Europe. And you know, it affects Europe. It doesn't really affect us.
U.S. negotiators pressing Kiev for minerals have threatened to cut Ukraine's access to Elon Musk's Starlink satellite internet system, Reuters reports. Starlink provides crucial internet connectivity to Ukraine's military. As Trump engages Russia, Ukraine and Europe are feeling left out. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said he had spoken to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, vowing ironclad support. During his meeting with Trump in Washington next week, he will stress that Ukraine's future cannot be decided without Kiev. French President Emmanuel Macron will also meet Trump, saying he will advise the U.S. leader not to appear weak in front of Vladimir Putin. In a further divide, Washington wants the United Nations Security Council on Monday to vote on a brief draft resolution marking the third anniversary of Russia's invasion. This before the 193-member General Assembly is due to meet to discuss the conflict. If the 15-member Security Council adopts the draft U.S. text, Washington and Moscow may argue that there is no need for the General Assembly resolution. One European nation likely to support the U.S. is Hungary, with its President Viktor Orbán opposing Ukraine's quest to join the European Union and NATO. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
According to Bloomberg, U.S. President Donald Trump's administration has told Mexican officials they should impose their own duties on Chinese imports. This as a part of a string of conditions for Mexico to avoid being subject to tariffs by Washington. The report said Mexico didn't make any commitment on China during the meeting. However, it is said to have finished with an agreement in place to launch a joint working group to address trade and tariff matters. The Trump administration has also demanded that Mexico do more to clamp down on migrants and fentanyl bound for the U.S. from within its territory. This as conditions to help avoid 25% U.S. tariffs, initially slated to come into force on February 1st, have been delayed for 1 month. Relatives waiting for the release of Palestinian prisoners in the latest ceasefire exchange were left disappointed after Israel announced that it had delayed the process. Israel said it would hold the prisoners until the release of the next Israeli hostages had been assured and without the humiliating ceremonies. Relatives had gathered in Beitunia in the West Bank, awaiting the release of 620 prisoners. The statement by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office on Sunday came as vehicles apparently carrying prisoners left a prison only to turn around and go back in. The United Nations said recent handovers by Hamas went against international law and were not respectful. The Palestinian group usually holds a ceremony attended by large crowds with released hostages standing on a stage carrying certificates. Israel said these ceremonies demean the dignity of hostages and is a cynical use of the hostages for propaganda purposes. The Vatican says Pope Francis rested during a peaceful night following a respiratory crisis and blood transfusions. The update came after doctors said the 88-year-old pontiff, who had part of one lung removed as a young man, was in critical condition. On Saturday morning, he suffered a prolonged asthmatic respiratory crisis while being treated for pneumonia and a complex lung infection. The Pope received high flows of oxygen to help him breathe. He also received blood transfusions after tests showed low counts of platelets, which are needed for clotting. Doctors say Francis's condition is touch and go given his age, fragility, and pre-existing lung disease. They say the main threat facing him is if the infection enters the bloodstream, a serious condition known as sepsis. Still ahead, adjustments to certain traffic regulations will take effect on March 1st. And a walk down memory lane at St. Joseph's College. Welcome back. The Transport Department today announced adjustments to several regulations for drivers that will take effect on March 1st. The new changes include remote control parking. Memo Singhai reports.
Some car models have the function of remote control parking. Under the existing legislation, drivers must turn off the engine and ensure the parking brake is applied before leaving the cars. They also cannot use handheld mobile phones when the car is in motion. However, individuals will be able to use their phones and other devices after the new adjustment on March 1st. But drivers must stay within an area of 6 meters to monitor the process of remote control parking. Other technical amendments include the relaxation of the overall height of single-deck buses from 3.5 meters to 4, and the use of light-emitting diodes, or LED, for lamps and direction indicators carried by vehicles. The Transport Department said it's hoped the changes will offer convenience to members of the public, increase road safety, and on a par with the international vehicle construction and maintenance standards. Members 9, TVB News.
Hong Kong's oldest all-boys Catholic secondary institution, St. Joseph's College, celebrated its 150th anniversary today. Having nurtured some of the city's most prominent scientists and leaders, the school also features a diverse range of historical artifacts representing various eras from the city's past. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Stepping into its 150th anniversary, St. Joseph's College opened its doors to visitors today to celebrate the institution's more than century-long influence on some of the city's best and brightest. From the father of fiber optics, Charles Cao, to biologist and CUHK president Dennis Lowe.
Well, St. Joseph is a place that has taught me how to think. It is at St. Joseph that I first learned about DNA, which is actually the area that I've been working on throughout my life. So I'm most grateful to St. Joseph for building a foundation for me.
Founded by the De La Salle brothers in 1875, the Catholic school had to relocate from its original premises on Kane Road to its current address after an earthquake in 1918. In an effort to help local students become accustomed to the campus, various parts of St. Joseph's integrated distinctly Chinese motifs into its architecture, most notably the Li Shakpang Hall and Chapel. Originally facilitating Portuguese Catholic students coming from Macau, the St. Joseph's College Chapel, which opened in 1925, added the Chinese character for holy on the staffs held by the two angels next to the altar, hoping to introduce local elements into the school's Catholic culture. Besides religious artifacts, the campus is also a treasure trove of remnants of the city's wartime era. The most famous being an emblem of the Imperial Japanese flag that could still be seen on one of the buildings. It's part of the legacy of the Japanese military forces who once occupied the school in World War II. Even in its aim to blend into modernity, the school still makes it clear that history is essential to its identity, as you can still find the relics of saints displayed at an entrance of its newly built library. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Have a great evening.